Shalom, I'm Rabbi Michael Panitz. I'm the Rabbi of Temple Israel of Norfolk, Virginia, and I'm speaking to you from the pulpit of our synagogue. At this time, I'd like to speak to you about a very serious subject, which I've entitled, An American Scandal, Food Insecurity in Our Land of Plenty. God did not create us as disembodied souls. God made us as sentient, feeling organisms. Our bodies are not simply machines that we can operate, much less clothes that we can exchange. Our bodies mediate our relationship to the world. Since religion is about the ultimate questions confronting us as we live in this world, our body's needs are religiously significant. Food is therefore a subject for Jewish teaching. To be human, we are reminded by the high holiday Jewish prayer, is to be compounded of elements coming from the environment. Adam yisodo me'afar v'sofo le'afar. Man's origin is dust, and he returns to the dust. And life is also to spend one's life seeking nourishment. The same prayer, binafsho yavi lachmo. He spends his life bringing in his bread. When we teach Judaism, we often focus on the dietary restrictions taught by our religion. No shrimp, no pork, no rattlesnake, no cheeseburgers. But just as important, maybe even more elemental, is the basic requirement to be mindful that God is the source of our nutrition and to act in accordance with that insight. God, according to the psalmist, is the one who arranges the natural order, lehotzi lechem min haaretz, to bring forth bread from the earth. The rabbinic response to that phrase from Psalm 104 was to make it into a benediction. Now it is the most often recited Jewish blessing over food. Baruch atah, etc., hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Blessed are you, O God, bringer of bread from the earth. Turning to the Torah portion that we will read this Saturday. In his valedictory address to the Israelite tribes, Moses tells them that they are about to enter the promised land, a land of agricultural plenty. They will grow abundant crops and they will eat to satiety. He then reminds them to bless God once they are satiated. Ve'achalta ve'sava'ata uverachta et Adonai Elohecha. Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 10. When you eat and are sated, bless the Lord your God. How does this speak to us, to our lives in 21st century America? Most of us eat to satiety. That is because America is the richest large nation in world history. In fact, we Americans are by and large overfed nowadays, with increasing incidence of diseases caused by overeating. Our land is so fertile that we pay our farmers not to grow certain crops. And even so, we have huge stocks of food for export. Moreover, we are profligate with the food we keep in this country. Of the food we produce for domestic use, much is wasted. As much as 3/8 of the total food supply produced in 2021. 91 million tons of surplus food. The excess food is not handled well. In 2021, only 2% of it was donated. 9% recycled into animal feed. 1/6 of it was composted. 1/3 of it went straight into landfills. And yet there are many Americans who go hungry. Consider these statistics compiled by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. 33.8 million people lived in food insecure households in 2021. 5.0 million children lived in food insecure households in which children, along with adults, were food insecure. The distribution of food insecurity is telling. 1 in 8 households with children, but 1 in 4 when the household was headed by a single woman, 1 in 6 when the household was headed by a single man. Food insecurity can plague households even if they are above the federally defined poverty threshold. Over 1 in 4 households struggled with food insecurity if their income was below 185% of the federal poverty line. I need to tell you that as one designated by our congregation to administer our charitable discretionary fund, and therefore as a point person in our congregational assistance to those in need, I see this on a daily basis, literally a daily basis. It is a source of deep dismay to me that in our land of plenty, an ongoing demand to which I respond is for help with groceries. Our congregation and the broader Jewish community does give generously to meet this real need. Frequently, our congregation's mitzvah of the month is to support the Jewish Family Services food pantry. This coming Sunday, which will be August 6th, the 4 Masorti conservative congregations in Southampton Roads, we are one of 4, will begin a series of programs supported and promoted by all, yet hosted by each one of the 4 in turn. We have decided as a community that there will be no specific admission charge for attending any of these 4 programs, but we are asking people who wish to attend to bring, in lieu of any attendance fee, food, canned food, boxed food, for the JFS food pantry. Please be generous in this regard. Ultimately, if there's not enough food for all, it is a question of our failure as a society, not God's failure as the Creator. When we bless God for our full stomachs, we need to take the next step and feed our hungry neighbor. Remember, neighbor is not just a geographical concept. As Rabbi Joachim Prince taught us, neighbor is a moral concept. Feeding your hungry neighbor is the most elemental way to fulfill the most basic of all the interpersonal commandments, v'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love your neighbor as yourself.